What's up, you guys, and welcome to another exciting installment of Monday Night Live. That's right. It's the final Monday Night Live for the month of July. Also, the last day in the month. We got July 31st of the year 2023. Of course, this show is always brought to you by yours truly, the man, broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com. That's right. Or simply Google this name and you can find out. Hello, D.A. Bell. Welcome to the show. What do we have for tonight? Tonight, I'll be filling you in on a high-stakes wager. I also have word from an aspiring author who could use your help with her whip, aka work in progress. And I'll be reading a long overdue update from a published author who's no stranger to the stream. And speaking of authors, I have some new indie author folly for our hot topic tonight. And I also have a reading related tag video to tackle as well. But before I get to all that, I like to take this time, slide right inside my first segment of the night, where I like to shine a spotlight on some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. Who do we have up first in line? First in line, we have from Emilio Iasiello. He says, what separates friendship from betrayal? Maybe a simple game can show you the fine line. This is Attrition by Emilio Iasiello. Let's see what we got. When a billionaire game manufacturer finds out he's dying from an incurable disease, he summons 3 former close friends from college to pilot a new murder mystery game his company's developing. Estranged since graduation, each has fallen on hard times and see the invitation as a way of soliciting financial assistance from their wealthy friend. But there's a reason that the men have not talked to each other since college, and coming together means opening old wounds. After the billionaire dies from strange circumstances, the friends decide to continue to play in hopes of collecting a sizable sum given to the person that solves the game. When it's revealed that the game was designed to expose the individual guilty of a murder 40 years ago in college, the true meaning of friendship is tested as the men compete not only for the prize, but also to stay alive in the process. Oh. Attrition has a little tagline there on the cover. It says, not all games are meant to be won. 302 pages, suspense thrillers. That is an accurate category, I think, to describe that blurb. All right, next in line. Looks like we're going to be continuing our coverage of Paxton Locke from Daniel Humphreys here. Let's see what we have. This is Paxton Locke, Book 3 by Daniel Humphreys, entitled Come, Sealing Night. Of course, all these books are suggested to me directly by the publishers themselves, whether they are a self-pubbed author from an independent label or a small press company, in case you didn't know. All right, there's the cover. From Dragon Award nominee Daniel Humphreys, Paxton Locke's been in some pretty tight spaces before. This one might be the worst. Drugged and shipped to who knows where on an airplane, he finds himself in a mysterious prison, locked up by men who seem to be feds. But they haven't given him his phone call, and Pax is pretty sure his cellmates aren't even human. His magic is useless, but he needs to find a way to escape. Mother has his girlfriend and wants a repeat of the night she killed Paxton's father, but this time she won't be interrupted. Somehow Paxton has to stop her, or the world might end. Apocalyptic visions from Mother's grimoire have haunted him for years. Now she's close to making those dreams a reality, and all Paxton can do is wait in his cell for someone to realize he's not the bad guy. Down at the bottom, it looks like we have a little bit of basically a comparison here. It says Harry Dresden's sorcery goes on a supernatural style road trip. Cool car sold separately. Yeah, I've heard that one. Well, I've read that one before because I'm familiar with this series. 312 pages on this bad boy in horror, paranormal, and urban fantasy, horror literature, and fiction. Something tells me we have not heard the last of Paxton Locke. That won't be the last we hear of Paxton Locke. All right, let's keep it moving. We got one more book to cover here in this first segment. From Mr. Eric, he says, my debut poetry chapbook. Debut poetry chapbook, huh? And he says, a recent review said, this isn't a book of sunshine and rainbows. It's raw and vulnerable expressions of painful and scary emotions. Emotional damage. Let's see if that's what we got in Eric Montgomery's Multifarious Dimensions of Meh, a poetry collection. Multifarious dimensions of meh. Multifarious dimensions of meh is my first poetry chapbook, and I hope you find inspiration within these pages. Inside, you will find poems covering a wide variety of subjects, such as bipolar, anxiety, depression, PTSD, self-doubt, a little humor, and general life. I'd like to thank the writing and poetry community on Twitter for encouraging me to publish my poetry. I've long dabbled with writing poetry, but I never thought of publishing it. Then he shares some reviews here given on it. So we have, what do we have here? This chapbook, 54 pages of poetry, subjects, and themes. American poetry, 90-minute literature, short reads. All right. Very good. Those are the books for this week. We have two novels and a poetry chapbook. So you guys know what the deal is. If you're watching this on the replay, go head over to the community tab and you can cast your vote for which one out of those three aforementioned titles you thought had the most text appeal. In other words, which one out of those three titles would you be most likely to pick? And if you'd like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my shorts tab or my playlist tab, and you can open up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, there is a cover card that reveals a book from the independent market that was recognized by the Live Free Live Rich Network. And inside the description section of each one of those videos, there's a link that will take you to an editorial written specifically on that book by yours truly. Moving right along into the next segment here. Which is the Reader's Review. The Reader's Review. Unfortunately, I do not have any reviews for you folks tonight, you fine folks tonight. But if you want to share a review with me, you're more than welcome. This is readers, you readers out there. I want to highlight you, specifically those of you who are willing to read independent literature, so indie books specifically. All right. If you're out there and you're giving these indie books the time of day, I want to hear about your experience with some of these books that you're reading from the independent market. Okay. I don't care if it was a positive experience or if it was a negative experience. Just go ahead and share a review with me. What I'm looking for is short form reviews. Okay. So think like Goodreads, an Amazon customer review, or like a Bookstagram, Twitter, short, like social media length type post on the book, and like a rating. You could give it a rating. So share your rating, rate your experience, and share a short form review with me, and I'll read it live on the air. Kind of give your social media a little plug that way. Another way is for you authors, you indie authors out there, if you want to recognize someone who took the time to read one of your novels, one of your books, and then went above and beyond and left a review, I'll recognize that reader on your behalf and you can share that review with me. Another way is I'm thinking about having booktubers. So content creators, you booktubers out there who read indie books, if you want to come on the show, you want to book a spot, come on the show and we can chit chat. We could talk. You could share your experience with an indie book with me in person, well, as close as we can be virtually on this show live on the air. And I think that that would be fun. Okay, let's get into some announcements. The easiest way to get your work for you creatives out there, easiest way to get your work noticed is to join one of our group servers. So you can join either the Gilded or the Discord server. Those links are always in the show notes down below, right near the top. I think it's one of the first links that you can click on, either the Gilded or the Discord. You can join them both if you want. And I took the time and I set up all these different channels in there so you can find the appropriate one and share your links with me. Now, you don't have to be just a creator or an artist or an author in order to join these group servers. If you're a reader, a supporter of the indie scene, please feel free to jump in on the action and you can join these servers and you can keep me clued in on what it is that you're reading, the things that you're talking about in the indie scene, the things that you're excited about. And we can kind of start to build up like an actual like community. You know what I mean? Now, there's no expectations of you. If you are like a content creator or an artist or an author, I don't expect you to check in daily. You don't have to engage in small talk if you don't want to. If you want to just use this as like a resource to keep me on the up and up with your projects and what you're working on, feel free to use it that way. And then it's easy for me to just log into these networks and then I can just go through all the channels and just see who's sharing what, and I can add it to the queue, and then I can plan these shows out ahead of time for all of you. All right, what do we have? Here's that high stakes wager I was telling you guys about. So this is, for those of you who don't know, I do a little voice acting on the side. And I believe this is one of the last episodes. I don't think it's the season finale. The season finale, I think, is coming up this Friday. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Doorway to Nightmare, baby. Doorway to Nightmare. Yes, this is an audio drama series. Audio drama series that is a mystery, thriller, kind of horror genre of audio drama that is uploaded here. You can check them out. You can check out these videos right here on YouTube, but they're also, it's audio. So, you know, they upload other places as well, different types of platforms, but I know them from YouTube. And in this episode, there is some high stakes. There's some high stakes, some millionaires on a train playing some high stakes games. And there's a little bit of poker, and there's also some high stakes games that's kind of turns into a life or death sort of situation. So you'll have to check it out and find out. But I play a role in this, and all these episodes are produced with using real voice actors, human beings voice acting. And each one of these episodes of this show is kind of like a standalone with a fresh cast of characters and its own separate story. So it's kind of more of an anthology series, if you will. Been following them for quite some time now. They're doing some pretty good work over there. I'm proud of those guys. All right. Keeping it moving here. Let's talk about one of my projects that I've been doing for a little while now. And that is the Storytellers Society. Storytellers Society, still accepting open submissions. This is a public collaborative project, basically an outreach program, really, for my peers in the writing community. What I'm looking for is flash fiction for this project. Flash fiction for this project is fiction that is between 500 all the way up to 2,000 words. This can be fiction that you actually have published somewhere else, so long as you own the copyright and you have the right to give me permission to republish it on my blog, where it will be free for public viewing from now and indefinitely. Just because you submit something doesn't mean that your work will automatically be published. It does need to be approved, but if approved, then you'll effectively book yourself a room at what I've dubbed the Hotel del SS, where all the members of the Storyteller Society stay. Yes. Link to that always in the show notes down below, or you can just hit the website. All right, I have one more project to talk about here, and this project comes from somebody that I don't believe I've ever talked about here on the live stream yet. So this is someone new. So let's welcome Chantel Agapiti. Chantel Agapiti. She's in search of help for her whip. So let's see what this is about here. She says, I'm writing to help inspire and motivate trauma survivors. So chronic pain / illness warriors, and to have better quality of life. She says, my whip is having its first editing check. She'll need some help in the near future. And she does have, she'd kind of share a graphic here. Let's check this one out. See what we got. So looks like she's doing some nonfiction. She's going to be looking for some beta readers, some proof readers, and reviewers. She's looking if you have any experience with self-help, self-development, or self-healing books. And if you are, then you are a part of her target audience, I'm assuming. So you can contact her. What I'll do is I'll leave a link to her Twitter profile, and then you can kind of get in contact with her through there. I think that'd probably be the best way to approach that. All right, last piece of news here. If you want to stay on the up and up with what's going on with all my projects across the entire brand, Live Free, Live Rich brand, you can head on over to www.livefreeliverich.com. Right on the home page, there's a little spot there where you can sign up for my weekly newsletter, where I'll keep you on the up and up with everything that's going on. I send out exactly one newsletter every week on Saturdays, and that will provide you with all the pertinent links of everything that transpired the previous week. All right, so if you're not big on social media, if you're not big on that, I understand. You don't follow a lot of people on social media. You're not really into doing all that. That's fine. Newsletters are still a thing. I definitely, if you're a creator, you're an author, I still think that it's valuable to be constantly trying to build up your newsletter, because even if you are active on social media, you never know. You never know when these little technocrat boys, will catch a hair across their ass and just make your social media disappear just like that, for seemingly no reason whatsoever. Completely unjustified, literally Revenge of the Nerds style. I don't trust any of these guys as far as you could throw them. All of them. All these technocrat CEOs, I don't trust a single one of them. I don't think they're, the integrity is definitely questionable. That's for sure. All right. That's it for the announcements. Took care of all the housekeeping. Now, if you watching this, you over there at home are watching this and you have some news to share, by all means, feel free to share it with me. As no skin off my back for me to make an announcement on your behalf if it's something that, it makes sense for me to announce. So what could this be? This could be like if you do like crowdfunding, you got something active in crowdfunding right now, you could reach out to me. If you're doing a buddy read or you're trying to run a book club and you get more members for your book club, that could be type of news that you could share with me. All sorts of things. When in doubt, don't think, just share the link and then I'll figure it out. How about that? All right, let's get into some reading time. Tonight I have something to read. This comes from the Discord server. And this is going to be a minor apology. A multi-month status update. Long overdue, not on his part, more on my part, because he shared this with me quite some time ago, but I figured better late than never as far as that goes. This comes from Herman P. Hunter via his blog, the hphunterwriter.com. So let's see what Herman's been up to. Of course, Herman, author of The Revenant Tomb and The Wizard's Stone, for those of you who don't know. Actually had him on the show before. All right. I guess HP Hunters. Actually, I guess his blog's name is The Lore Forge. The Lore Forge. All right, let's see what Herman's been up to. A minor apology. Says, I usually do a monthly update. So the fact that this, and mind you, this is dated May 3rd. So that's how far back this update goes. So we'll find out. Maybe we can speculate upon how far he's gotten and whatever he's talking about here. I usually do a monthly update. So the fact that I haven't done one in several months makes me a very naughty boy. So I'm apologizing for being remiss in posting content. Sorry. Now that I got that over with. The Wizard's Stone. The release of The Wizard's Stone went stunningly well. I sort of have to pinch myself to see if I'm dreaming. By the end of March, I was rapidly approaching 50% of the books I sold for the entire year of 2022. Actually, I gauge a year from one release to the next, but you get the general idea. As it stands right now, I've passed last year's sales. Oh, awesome, man. Moreover, I can say without any reservations that in a little over a year, I've sold hundreds, that's right, hundreds of copies of my book. Wow. Hundreds. Yeah, it's not going to get me on a USA Today list, but for an unknown self-pub author who is only able to release one book a year, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, man, that is definitely nothing to sneeze at, dude. Hundreds of books for an indie author, that's awesome, man. That's great. The feedback, I don't know. Maybe you've touched on it a little bit, but I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you do a lot of paid marketing either, do you? I don't think you do a lot. I don't think you do a lot of paid marketing. That's hundreds of books from an author that isn't breaking the bank to do paid marketing. So mostly word of mouth, if I'm not mistaken. So being on my second book, I was really concerned about whether I could hit the same notes that I did with The Revenant and the Tomb, but this appears to be the case. I've had at least one person say to me that they liked it more than the first book. Well, that's cool. That's encouraging, I'd imagine. Likewise, the audiobook. Yes, the audiobooks too. Audiobooks seem to make up a quarter of my sales. Really? That much? Maybe I should get into the start doing this audiobook thing. I would have to hire a narrator though. Even though I do a little bit of like the voice acting thing, I don't think I'd want to narrate my own books. I think I might, take it upon myself to kind of, I don't know, spread the love, if you will, and maybe hire a professional narrator to do that if I was to get into the audiobook thing. Now, I have heard samples of Herman's narrator, and he does a really good job. He's a good narrator. So recently, the sales of my audiobooks have escalated, and from some pretty unlikely sources. When The Wizard's Stone was released, there is a succession of checkouts from Biblioteca, a library service, double from the previous year. Chirp ran a promotion on both of my books, and I started to get organic sales from there too. I know I have sales at Apple and Audible, but the surprising one was Storytel. Storytel services countries outside of the English language sphere. One morning I woke up and bang, I see 29 additional audiobooks sold in places like Norway, Poland, Sweden, and so on. That's a 107% increase in sales in that market. Awesome. My actual sales starting March 3rd is actually far higher than I know. I have yet to receive any of the Audible and Apple numbers yet, but I have tools to inspect a historical sales rank, and the resultant graph is like a sawtooth pattern. So something sold. As to how many, I'm not sure yet. Unlike last year, book sales have been happening organically, meaning that they occur without the need to run ads. See, there you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Anytime you can save your greenbacks and not put your greenbacks in the back pocket of technocrats, that's a fucking win as far as I'm concerned. Because a lot of these companies, they rig the friggin' game. They rig it so they get it in your head that in order to even be seen, you have to spend money on their platforms. And I say, screw that. The more people not doing that, the better. It's the people who actively do that on a regular basis are the ones who encourage this kind of misbehavior, I'll straight up say, from these technocrats. And it is misbehavior. It's downright, it's pretty much, it's damn near fraudulent behavior. If they run the algorithms and then they also offer their own promotional services or advertising services, that's damn near fraud, as far as I'm concerned. But I digress. Since March 3rd, I've been selling a minimum of 3 books a week. Last year, I'd get about 2 to 3 sales a month without ads. 3 books a week. And last year, okay, so you were selling a minimum of 3 books a week. So for this year, since March 3rd, and last year, you'd be lucky if you got 3 sales within a month without ads. I would say even without ads, you know, it's something. It's something. I say anytime you can get any sales without running ad campaigns, that's a win. That is like 100. Anytime you can get sales without having to spend any overhead on ad campaigns, that's a win as far as I'm concerned, because that is technically would be 100% profit. Of course, minus whatever cost it took for you to get said product on the market. But saying if you've already made your money back on that, you know, the publishing of that book, say if you've already made your money back, because you said that you've sold hundreds of copies, right? So say you sold hundreds of copies and say you were making anywhere from, I don't know, I'll assume maybe $5, around $5 a purchase per purchase. Then, and you're selling hundreds, you know, then, you know, maybe you're getting right. You're probably, if you haven't already, maybe you're closing in on getting into the green as far as like making good on your editing costs and maybe proofreading costs. I don't know your business plan, so I don't know how much it costs you, Herman, specifically to publish a book, which is going to vary from author to author, depending on their, you know, their level of expertise, what they're comfortable doing, the various skills, and how many different hands you want involved in the cookie jar as far as that goes. But, you know, say you break even, anytime you make a sale where you don't have to run ads, that's 100% profit as far as I'm concerned. Hello, welcome. That's awesome, man. Hey, always happy to see you, man. Or at least see your name stopping in the chat. The next book. So here's the next book. This I'm interested in hear about. So we had touched upon this a little bit. I believe this blog post was actually published after my chat that I had, the conversation that I had live with Herman on the air. So let's see what he says about his next book. It says development of the next Hal Cedric book is still ongoing. I have a ton of material written, but the story is in pieces. Currently, I'm writing the beginning chapters, which is actually a rewrite. Why? My original plan was to give the reader a closer look at Hal Cedric, Herodani, and the Alani Kingdom of Eleanor. The intention was to provide my readers with more depth to the relationship that exists between Herodani and Hal Cedric. This was actually requested by several of my readers. However, I was sitting at chapter 5, realizing that just about every chapter past the prologue was slow. So the entire strategy has been revised. I've cut those backstory chapters and reworked the beginning. I'm on chapter 5 at this point. I'm also adding more tension to the story, as at present, the reason for Hal Cedric to be in this region of the world is not really apparent. I still have a bit of a slow start, comparable to the Wizard's Stone, but I get the characters engaged in the events of the region, which then gets me into the action quicker. For those of you who don't know, Herman P. Hunter kind of describes himself as more of kind of like a think sword and sorcery-ish. So it's not 100%, you're not getting 100% pulp type fantasy. It's a little bit, think maybe a little bit higher than that, but still manages to include that kind of high octane sword and sorcery-esque type of action. At least that's where he told me he's kind of aiming for that. At least that kind of tone, I should say. A number of people have been a number of people have been disappearing in and around the city of Orem, and Hal Cedric and Herodani are sent to find out the reason behind them. While Hal Cedric already suspects the reason why, what he discovers is something far different than what he expected, and that's all I'm going to reveal. While The Revenant and The Tomb gave you a peek at some of the lore of this fantasy world, the next book will be an introduction to the greater struggle that's currently going on. And it has to do with a couple of prophecies that are foundational to some of the books I've already written. However, those cut chapters and all of that those cut chapters and all of that backstory, those may not go away. I'm toying with the idea of releasing an author's complete edition at a later date for those who really want to learn more about the characters. Other books on the horizon. As some of you may already know, The Revenant and the Tomb was the second attempt to write a story about Hal Cedric. The first attempt was his origin story, and it was abandoned. The beginning and the end were compelling enough, and it had some great characters. Hal Cedric's actions and his inner conflict were interesting topics to explore, but in the end, I had to drop the book. The middle of the book was a mess. And kudos to you, Herman, for doing that. I know that can be something that is very difficult to do. I've had projects myself where now, mind you, not novels. I'm talking short stories here, which is a lot easier to walk away from, a 10,000 word short story than it is perhaps maybe a 60,000, 40,000 words into a novel. But yeah, I mean, if you're not feeling it, man, I definitely I relate with you on that. Like, if you're not feeling it, like, sometimes that's just the best decision that you can do as an author, instead of trying to force something out there. And because at the end of the day, your name is going to be on this. I know you use a pen name, but still, like, your name is going to be on this. And if you like force it and you're just like rush it and you just want to just put something out there, literally just for the sake of putting something out there, it could come back to haunt you. It could come back to haunt you. So as hard as it is, because of the amount of work and time that you might have put into something, it doesn't mean you have to scrap it. It doesn't mean you burn it and you forget it ever existed, but maybe you just tuck it away. You tuck it away in a 3-ring binder for you to dust off at a later time with a fresh set of eyes and a brand new outlook on life, and maybe it's something that could be salvaged out of there. Maybe not the whole thing. Maybe it turns into a different thing. You never know. I say if it's words on the page, then it's words on the page. Just leave it, save it for later. Why not? Throwing it, the worst decision I think a writer can make is to put words on the page, especially if we're talking thousands, tens of thousands of words upon the page, and then just throw all that effort away. Don't do that. You're squandering potential at that point. And there's nothing bigger pet peeve of mine than seeing squandered potential. I mean, you do what you want, but I'm just saying that is not something that I do. Or I'd ever recommend any creative person do. So I'm considering picking up that abandoned project. Huge chunks of it are already written. It would not be a huge effort to develop it alongside the current book I'm working on now. Yeah, see? Something that you can kind of take a break. And like, if you want to take a break from your main project, I got multiple shit I'm working on at any given time. I'm one of those guys, I spin plates. I got multiple plates that I spin. because I never know the type of mood that I'm going to be in. So if I want to work on this, I can work on this, I can work on that. I always have something that I can be occupying my time with. So let's see. It would not be a huge effort to develop it alongside current book I'm working on now. While I've not committed to pursue this, I'm giving it serious thought. As I have it planned now, I think there will be no more than 4 stories with Hal Cedric as the main character. They would break down thusly: his origin, then comes The Revenant in the Tomb, which is actually Herman's debut novella, The Revenant in the Tomb. And then the book that he's working on now, and a final story that is yet to be determined. So apparently The Wizard and the Stone does not have anything to do with Hal Cedric, or is not focused on Hal Cedric as the main character. What I will say, however, is that one of these stories may incorporate a dragon along the way. Just going to throw that out there. There be dragon. There may be a dragon. All right. No guarantees. Just something I'm mulling over. Dragons are a touchy issue for me. Everybody writes about dragons. EVERYBODY. Everybody. To the point, in my opinion, where the sheer terror of facing such a beast is lost. I'll agree to disagree with you on that one. It really comes down, it's like anything else, really. You could say a lot of themes. Everybody writes about the same types of themes in all these fantasy type stories, you know. The chauffeur quest, where you save the damsel in distress and then you got to chauffeur her back to, or chauffeur some, important character to some far off land filled with danger. Or it's a retrieval quest where you got to go retrieve the item that you need later on in the story to achieve success, those types of things. And then it's dealing with the relatable themes of like fellowship and all that stuff. But it really boils down to the author. And I know you know that. Herman is well aware of a lot of these things after I've had my conversation with him. It's easy to tell just by talking to him. He's definitely an author. He knows what he's doing. He's not just flying by the seat of his pants. These are a lot of things that he has put a lot of thought into, and you can kind of tell that if you've ever had a conversation with him. And as we can see from his blog post here. But this dragon issue, yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to the writer, but I could definitely see where you're coming from with that. Especially when people start giving dragons, like I always saw dragons, me personally, if I want to just weigh in on this real quick, if I could share my opinion on it. Dragons for me has always been like a more of a symbolic type thing. So I never really understood anthropomorphizing the dragons. In other words, giving these dragons human-like features, whether it be giving the dragons human-like intelligence and giving them the ability to speak with human beings. I don't know. I feel like that often makes it kind of weird. Like, I don't know how to take that. Like, how do you really take that? Because you're not talking to another human being. It's not the characters are relating to a human being. So how does a human being relate to a dragon? Or more importantly, how would a mythological beast that human beings have never experienced in real life relate to something that is basically would be inferior to it in more ways than one? You know what I mean? And I feel like it'd be a very difficult task to kind of take that on as an author, because you're always coming at it from the perspective of a human being. So that's where I think it's kind of gets lost there. There's like something that gets lost in translation if you're trying to humanize or anthropomorphize dragons, which I feel like the most effective way to approach dragons as a writer is to take more of a symbolic stance of the mythological beast. But that's my take on it, my personal opinion on it. If I write about a dragon, so yeah, I'm right there. You kind of put it into perspective right there. If I write about a dragon, it's going to be a malevolent force of nature, and I think that's the most effective way to kind of come at it. Like, I mean, that's just one example of a way that you can use symbolism with dragons. In other words, the dragon is symbolizing a malevolent force of nature that is effectively larger than life, to put it, if you're to put it into perspective. But yeah, that's like one way of being able to symbolize what use dragons as a symbol. Something that even some of the greatest powers in my fantasy world fear to challenge. Something like a nastier and crueler version of Smaug from The Hobbit, except without all the prissy dialogue. Yes, I know it was a children's book. I'm trying to make a point here. And I hear you loud and clear on that one. And as per usual, the story of this encounter will be dark and gritty, because the European version of a dragon was a nasty, vicious beast. Typically, that doesn't coincide with all things sugar and spice, just saying. Another book I want to write dovetails into The Wizard's Stone and Odo's fate. Oh yeah, Odo was the main character on that one. It's the tale of a fallen angelic creature who has become disillusioned with the cause to which he and his fellow rebel brethren have committed themselves. Something happens where he finds himself on an odyssey where he must finally come to grips with the things he has done in the past. I hesitate to call it an epic story, but I think it has a lot of potential. I'm definitely getting Luciferian vibes there, Herman. Is that what you're alluding to? Maybe a little Luciferian type story there? While I've talked about the light bearer, if you will, while I've talked about resurrecting Hal Cedric's origin story, this is the book I've presently committed to develop when the story I'm currently writing is done. I know you're into the kind of Christian themes in your fantasy, so I wonder if that's a little ode to, well, maybe not so much an ode, but just maybe a wink and a nod towards that Luciferian direction. Time will tell, I suppose. In conclusion, well, that's all for now. I have lots of plans for things I want to do. Sadly, I don't have a lot of time to do them. Plus, at this stage, I think it's probably better to go slow. Building something solid along the way. Yeah, don't write checks your ass can't cash. I hear that one. But it's cool to hear kind of where your mind's at, the things that you're thinking about. You're not setting anything in stone, if you will. At least, except for the wizard's stone, that is. Plus, let's see. So as opposed to going in 15 different directions with material for which there is no audience. But it's cool, though. I think that, like we kind of touched upon when you were on the show, I think, especially when people start developing these series and these new IPs within the indie scene, if you want to build an audience, I think it's within your best interest to at least touch base with those individuals who have given your work the time of day, just to say, hey, you guys, I'm still alive and there's things in the pipeline. All right. So if you've committed yourself to reading my books. First off, thank you. Second off, there's more in the works here. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I feel like sometimes people will start these fantasy series. They only get as far, they might have aspirations to publish an entire trilogy. But then the author debuts their book 1 in this series, and then they're nowhere to be found after the fact. So what happens to those readers? You know, even if it's only a handful of people, it's like, you know, they read that book and then they go above and beyond, and they even leave a review for that book, and they're asking themselves, like, you know, it's too bad that the author seems to be, you know, MIA. The author has just gone completely MIA because I'm interested in this series, but who knows if this series is even going to be completed, because it's some obscure author that may have just been like, hey, you know, I'm going to write this series, but then maybe life got in the way. Who knows? So this is why, you know, I think it's good as authors that you guys kind of start a blog, have your own website, or at the very least, you can start your own blog. There's plenty of free resources online, Substack, Blogger, what have you, that you can kind of start building up your own blog, and you can kind of keep tabs, if not social media. But a blog makes it a little bit more official. A blog makes it a little bit more intimate, you know, if you have your own blog and you're publishing on your own blog. And it's also, again, like I've said before, it's something that the technocrats can't just snap their fingers, wave their magic little nerd wand, and take away from you whenever they catch a hair across their ass. Let's see. So he says, once again, if you've read The Wizard's Stone, please leave an honest review of your experience. This is especially true if you liked the book. I also need your help to spread the word. Word of mouth is still a strong driver of book sales. If you liked the book, tell a friend, tell a bunch of friends. If even one of your friends buys the book, that's a winner chicken dinner moment for me. I've been pushing my books as hard as I can, and I can vouch for that. I see Herman all over the place online. He's active on a bunch of different people's podcasts, live streams, whether if he's not a guest, he's in the live chat, just checking in, dropping in, saying hi, which he's often done on this show as well. And he says, I've been pushing my books as hard as I can without being obnoxious about it. I spend a lot of money on advertising. Oh, apparently he does spend money on advertising. And it's beginning to pay off. However, the reality is, unless I actually start making money on my books, this is nothing more than a very expensive hobby or a vanity project. And that type of endeavor doesn't usually last. And yeah, while I shill my wares like a madman, I'm already slipping into promotional burnout. Yeah, no doubt on that one. So any little thing you can do to keep the ball rolling is more than appreciated. Until next month. Of course, I probably said that back when I let the updates lapse. Well, thanks for sharing that news, Herman. And I'm rooting for you, man. I'm rooting for you. And I still have your books on my TBR list, sir. So best believe I'll be getting around to those at some point. There was something else I wanted to say about that. Yeah, and when it comes to the indie stuff, all right. So I'm trying to come up with different ways, all right. Different ways of kind of not only showcasing indie, raising awareness for indie. I like to give the time of day and the effort to those who are proactive in the scene. I like that first and foremost. So if you're proactive in the scene, it's not a matter of me making a value judgment and judging the quote unquote quality of your work. Okay. That's not for me to judge. There's a time and a place for that, which I do actually write indie reviews myself. I review indie books. I read indie books. And I have a Goodreads, and I have my own blog where I publish specialized editorials on those books. So I rate them not only on my own blog, but I also leave customer ratings on Goodreads. I don't do Amazon because I also publish on Amazon. I don't ever want there to be some sort of weird conflict of interest thing. So I think it's safe to just do, I just do Goodreads review, and I call it good at that. But then I also publish specialized editorials on my own blog as a writer as well. So, that's pretty extensive. I go pretty in depth with some of those breakdowns and then leave a rating on that. And that's where I kind of give my value judgment as to the actual quality of the work itself, and I'll give it a rating. And we're going to get into ratings here in just a moment. But before I do, if there's something that you guys would like to contribute to Reading Time and I'll read it live on the air, this could be poetry. This could be like a blog article like I just read right there, where it's just a writer's update that you want to share with me. I'm cool with all that. This could be an essay. All right. This could be a piece of flash fiction. If you published a sample of one of your novels, say like the first chapter or something like that on your own blog, you can share that with me. If you do serialized fiction on like a third-party website like Wattpad, Kindle Vella, Royal Road, you can share that stuff with me, and I'll read like the prologue or the first episode or something like that. Kind of give my audience a little sneak peek into one of your projects. You see, this is how we can kind of build some synergy from one creator to another, and we can kind of help each other out. You guys provide me with a little bit of content that I can put on this show, and then in return, I'm showing off your work for the audience that I'm putting in the effort to build, and I continue to market to on a weekly basis. You scratch my back, I scratch yours, sort of thing. But it's not exactly tit for tat. I'm not a huge fan of the whole tit for tat, which is why I try to come up with creative ways that we can work together and collaborate in a productive kind of way. Because I will say right now that if I've ever featured any of your work on these shows, you are more than welcome to download any of these episodes. I leave them all up for you guys, because if you want to link to them, like say if you want to write, because I do press releases. Anytime my work or I'm featured on somebody else's project or on somebody else's website, what I do on my blog is I'll publish a press release, right? So I publish what I call a press release, where I'm basically just giving an update, an update on some things that I've been involved in that doesn't revolve around my brand specifically. So in other words, like I do that every time I'm involved in one of those audio drama episodes that I talked about with Doorway to Nightmare. I do that with them. And anytime I show up on somebody else's podcast or anything like that, I'll do it then. So it's just a way to kind of not only keep my audience updated with other places where I'm making appearances or my work is appearing or being featured, but it also kind of gives a backlink to whoever it is that I collaborated with. So you see what I'm saying? You can do that with these shows too. If your work has ever been featured on these shows, you want to do like an update or something like that, I leave all the shows up for that reason. So the links will stay active. So you can link back to those episodes, the specific episodes, and you can leave a timestamp where your work was featured, or you can just go ahead and download it if you want. You can edit it out, that one particular clip featuring your work, and you can edit it. You can change it if you want, like make alterations to it. Like if you have some video editing skills, you want to put music in the background, do whatever you want to do to it. And for your own marketing and advertising purposes, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, that's why it's there. Doing it for you guys and doing it for the engagement as far as that goes. Try to build up this indie community, right? And the only way we do that is by sharing with one another, sharing in different types of ways. Creative ways is what I'm trying to come up with, So all I ask is if you do that, hey, drop my name, drop the name of the podcast, or drop my website. I'd be very appreciative of that. Help each other out. And this is how we kind of build, keep the audience, because I feel like if we're all doing our own separate thing as individuals, right? Individually, I think that's where the community will gain traction. Because if everybody is just focused, like say there's only one podcast guy, right? You got one guy, he's the podcast guy. Well, everybody at that point, everybody and their grandmother they're all marketing and advertising to the same audience. And you don't want that, because what happens is you just have that one audience and that one audience only. And then what happens if that one podcast guy fails to deliver? The whole show, the whole community goes down just like that, because everybody's relying on that one podcast guy, for his audience or her audience, which is why, the more the merrier as far as that goes. I think that if you have the time, maybe be developing your own YouTube channel. If not, if you don't want to have a blog, that is, and be writing blog posts, that's another option, is to start a YouTube channel. If at the very least, just to kind of give video updates, you can just slap on the camera and just shoot the shit off the top, just free flow, and just let your audience know what's going on with you, what's going on with your projects, keep them in the loop, that sort of thing. Another way, like I say, sharing things around. So not just sharing with this guy, not just sharing, putting all your eggs in one basket, but spreading it around. You know what I mean? And as individuals, each individual, if they're putting in the time and the effort, because that's another thing. You don't want to, it's not just a bunch of slackers. I want to reward people who are proactive. So that means people who are consistent. I want to pay attention to the people who are consistently putting in their time and effort, right? Because that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, as far as like, sharing things with them and interacting with them. Those are the people you want to engage with, because you're helping them out. If they continue to show up for you, the least you can do is show up and just give a little bit of engagement, because then that helps them grow their channels, grow those platforms, so that they can be of better service for all of you artists and creators out there that would like to have a place to go, when you're focused on just writing your next novel, you're just focused on your next art project. It gives you that freedom to just focus on that one thing. And then when you're ready to bring that thing to market, you have some place to go that somebody else has been continuously putting in the time to develop. And you can talk about said thing, said project, and there's an audience there waiting to hear about it. You see what I'm saying? This is how this stuff works. So let's go into the next segment here. The next segment, we have featured media. That's right. We got a video tonight. We got a video to check out. Yes. Yeah. I got him out of his hole. Yeah. Speak of the devil. Herman. I was wondering how long I was going to have to be on my soapbox before you finally popped in and said, yo, here's an air horn for you. Very good. All right, featured media. I got some media for you guys. This is going to be a tag video. And this comes from, guess who? Guess who? But Nicole's Bookish Nook. That's right, Nicole's Bookish Nook. She tagged me in quite a few. As a matter of fact, I think I've had more tags in this past year from Nicole's Bookish Nook than I have from the entire time that I've been doing this podcast or this show. Anyway, she tagged me in a video called the DNF tag. However, I would like to just clear something up real quick. First off, thank you, Nicole, for including me in that. That's how I would like to preface that by saying that first and foremost, before I make this little correction here. But I would like to, there is a correction that needs to be made to do justice by the creator of the tag. But the tag that I'm doing tonight is not called the DNF tag. So there was a little bit of a goof there somewhere along the line. I don't know who the culprit is, but I will correct it because I was looking for the original creator. And it actually turns out this isn't called the DNF tag. This is actually called How Do We Rate Our Books tag, which actually makes a lot more sense if you given the prompts that are involved on this. So anyways, this is actually called How Do We Rate Our Books tag, and the credit for the original creator of that tag goes to Emily over at Novell Novels. Of course, I will be leaving a link, or at least I'll tag her channel in the show notes in post-production for you guys, so you can kind of check out her channel over there. So the DNF tag, I don't know how that got mixed up in the process, but that's actually a completely different tag that has a completely different set of prompts that originates from a completely unrelated channel. But nevertheless, we're going to take a crack at this How Do We Rate Our Books tag from Nicole's channel here. Always a pleasure to hear from Nicole's Bookish Nook. She's quite the prolific indie author herself. Actually, she's releasing a new book pretty soon here, if not already. And I believe her Danu's Curse book was in the SFPBO or something like that, SFBPO awards or something like that. It's like the self-published books, where it's like fantasy, sci-fi, that sort of thing. Something that goes on Twitter. I'm not too familiar with it. I know, but I do know that it's been going on for a while. So she's been sharing some updates on that on her channel. So that's some pretty exciting stuff on her neck of the woods. All right, let's see what Nicole has for us this time. I know I am thankful that because you've been tagging me in some pretty difficult book tags, mind you, that required me to actually do some reading, some cram reading, if you will. But it was some reading nevertheless that I was meaning to get to. So this one, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit thankful that it didn't require me to, be doing a whole bunch of homework ahead of time. All right, let's get to it.
What's up, Buttercup? Welcome back to my channel. Today's tag is the DNF tag, and that was created by Jess Book Girl TV, and I was tagged by Bad is Rad too. What's up, Bad? And we're just gonna jump right into the first question. How often do you DNF, and what makes you DNF? I think I DNF a little bit more because I'm doing library books and little library books, so it's free books. I am going to be a little more adventurous, and that's been about a year now. Usually, I don't DNF if I pay for the book, and if I do, I'm really pissed off. Because that's my money, and yeah. pissed off. If I DNF a book, that's going to be either a 1 or a 2 star, and it's just not working, and I feel like I'm wasting my time, and I don't like wasting time because I only got one life to live, and I need to read all those books that I can. That sounds very weird, but yeah, there are only so many books, and we have one life, so I'm going to DNF books that are not working and then move on to books that potentially will work or I know will work because of the author. Like, I know. So we're going to move on. Number.
I like that. I like that little gizmo you have in the background there. I see that. Gremlins. Gremlins is a good movie, by the way. So the first prompt or question is, do I DNF books? I have a little bit different one. I do understand where Nicole's coming from. That's not the first. She's not the first person that I've heard say that about DNFing. Like, you only have one life to live. Hello, YOLO. You know, but which is understandable. You know, me personally. So there's this. So I come at it like this. I never DNF or do not finish. I never DNF books. I like to shelf books. Okay. I'll shelf a book. If I'm not feeling it, because I'm a mood reader, if I'm not feeling a particular book, and trust me, and I read nonfiction too, and there's some nonfiction that's pretty fucking dense. And, you know, when you're talking hundreds upon hundreds of pages of something that's dense nonfiction, it's not meant to entertain you, but to inform you. Yeah. Best believe I got some of those shelved right now that I'll be getting back to at a later point in time, you know, so long as I'm still alive, that is. If I just so happen to not get back to that book during my lifetime, hey, so be it. But as far as I'm concerned, I never DNF'd. So that's my loophole. Anyways, the reason why I don't DNF though is another thing is because like I want to do reviews. So I feel like as much as I understand, like when you DNF a book, like you don't want to waste your time. Okay. But then what do you do with all that? Like say you've made it like when do you DNF though? Like, do you have a certain percentage point? Like if you hit 15, 20% of the book, if you've gone through 15, 20% of the book and you haven't hit that inciting incident yet, or at least it hasn't seemed like you've hit that inciting incident yet, is that the point where you call it and you say, yeah, okay, I have no idea what the inciting incident is in this fucking novel yet. I got to DNF this. I don't know where the hell this book is going. It's kind of confusing. It's muddled. I don't get it. I'm out of here. Is that you? Or like what happens if you get through? Because I feel like it's almost just as much a waste of time to go through 50%, dare I say 75% of a novel. And you say you only got like, or you've gone through 2/3. You know, maybe you only got like 100 pages left, 50 pages left. I mean, isn't it almost in your best interest to just go ahead and just finish those last 50 to 100 pages? That way, then you're justified. Because I feel like the only way you're really justified to give a review is if you finished the book. Now, some people might argue with me on that and say, well, you know, you can talk about the portion of the book you read. Sure. But you're not getting the whole story though. That's like I would argue that's like making up your mind about an argument when you're only heard one person's side of the story. And is that fair? You know, I would argue no. So if you're going to DNF a book, then, you know, there's really no point in doing a review. So then now not only are you out your time for the amount of time that you read that book, but you're also out some potential content that you could be putting out into the reading space, you know, as a critic, because I look at reviews as content as well. Every time I publish a new editorial, every time I publish a new review on Goodreads, that is also content that is attached to my name that I'm putting out there where people can discover who I am. Maybe not necessarily as an author, but definitely as a reader and as a writer too, because when you're writing reviews, there is a certain skill involved in writing quality reviews as well, I think. But yeah, as far as DNF, I don't DNF. What the heck is DNF? Just an acronym, just means did not finish. I don't know if you're being sarcastic there. Maybe you're being sarcastic.
Number 2, do you rate books 1 star? Yes, doesn't happen often, but I do rate them. Number 3, what's a 2 star?
That's it? That's all you had to say on that one? All right, so number two, do you rate books 1 star? How often do you rate them? So I'm not really sure the wording on that, but I'll just how I interpret it. I do rate books 1 star, not often. Thankfully, not often. Typically, I'm going to pick out books. Like, I don't intentionally go out looking for published works that would be an obvious 1 star. Like, I may check out the sample of the work or something like that. I don't typically go looking for, shit books. Does it happen? It has happened, yes, but not very much. I could count the amount of times on one hand that I've dished out a 1 star rating. Because a 1 star rating for me just means, why the hell was this published? So that's why I don't run into 1 star ratings, because most people, regardless if they're traditionally published or independently published, are not going to publish something that is just completely unwarranted, in other words, for publishing, I think. Are they out there? Probably a lot of AI crap that's out there. But it's also your job on the consumer end too, to kind of like discern and decipher, what it is that you're about to start reading. Because I do try to have a little bit of discernment before I start reading a book. Because like I say, I don't DNF. So I don't want to start something that I don't plan on finishing. So I've had those where I was like, fuck, this is killing me right now. This is killing me to get through. But the whole time I'm reading it, though, I'm thinking to myself, oh, and I'm going to rip through this thing in my review. And you, at that point, as the reader, I think you are justified, because it is your time, energy, and money that went into acquiring that book, reading that book, and then sitting down and writing a review on that book. So I think you are perfectly justified to give books a 1 star review if you honestly, as a critic, think that book had no business ever being published. That's how I feel about it. Oh, you were serious? Yeah. DNF just means did not finish. So if you hear that, like if you put in Booktube on YouTube and you check out Booktube channels, sometimes you'll hear content creators say they DNF'd a book. They just saying that they did not finish the book. They started the book, but they didn't finish the book. That's all that is.
Our book for you. The 2-star book is, there was potential, but the writer did not meet that potential. And something happened along the way where I was like, yeah, I don't see this as being a good book, but I can see a great concept, or I can see great characters. Number 4.
All right. So number 3 on this one is, so continuing along the line, like, how do we rate our books? So the next one is 2-star reviews. So but now it's asking you, what is a 2-star review? So what's the difference? I did a whole video presentation on ratings that you guys can check out on my page. But as far as this one goes, I didn't really go into depth as far as the rating segment on that one. But yeah, 2-star review for me basically just means it was okay. And I kind of go into the same mentality as Nicole here, is that I saw potential in it, which is why it was okay, but it wasn't good. It doesn't mean it was good. It's not good. It's not a good book. It was okay. Let me be a little bit more specific. So really, like, potential, meaning that, you know, again, there were, like Nicole was saying, there might have been some concepts in there that was good, but just really wasn't explored in depth or anything like that. For me, it could just boil down to a lot of the ideas and those concepts just simply weren't refined enough. They were very wishy-washy, or they weren't well thought out. There was potential, but they just simply weren't well executed. In other words, the novel needed more work. So when I give something a 2-star review, what I'm really saying is that I personally thought the story needed more work, whether it be in the editing process, or as far as the writing itself, or in the developmental process, in the creative process. Like, some things weren't hashed out as well as they could have been. It doesn't necessarily mean that the book was riddled with plot holes or anything like that. It could be a decent story, believe it or not. If I give a 2-star rating to something, the story itself could be decent. Like, in other words, there's nothing necessarily inherently wrong or that I thought was illogical or anything like that with the story itself, but it's just that it wasn't fully realized, if that makes sense. Like, I kind of grasped what the author was going for, and in my head, I saw it being something a lot different than what it turned out to be, and what it turned out to be was kind of disappointing, based on the potential of what it could have been, in other words. Am I basically saying if I wrote it, I could have done it better? Yes.
Is a 3-star book good for you? And yes, I think 3 stars is average, and it's okay to be average. That sounds really silly, but not everything is going to be amazing. Not everyone is going to be amazing, and you might have things that you're amazing at.
That sounds really bad.
For the most part, Nicole, you're good at stuff. Like, I'm good at a lot of things. I'm amazing in some things, and like,
sounds like you're really deflating someone's
that
ego.
Is totally fine to admit.
Listen, so it's okay to be mid. Okay.
And
it's okay to be a basic
have to be
Becky.
Amazing and fabulous, okay, and everything under the sun perfect, or else whatever. That's just not realistic. And it's actually, in a way, emotionally and mentally dangerous, because you're going for the perfection or near perfection for everything you do, but really you're going to be good at a lot of stuff, and you're going to be amazing at some things, and you're going to suck at a lot of things. No one's perfect. We're all human. We make
This is the most diplomatic answer ever.
And we're not good at
You're running for office?
I don't think that is a big deal. And it goes the same for books. I think that, well, for 3 stars, I think it's above average.
Why strive for anything but greatness?
I say above average for 3 stars. And so that means I enjoyed the book, but there are some just one too many things that were like, to make it just above average instead of a 4-star, which is great. And then 5 stars is nearly perfect. There are flaws,
See,
but
this
it's
is where
so
we
damn
differ
good that
as far as
it's
that
5
goes. That's not how
stars.
I see
And I enjoyed it a lot.
reviews.
Also, I probably cried. Yeah. But if I cry, it has to be a 4 stars at least. And that's kind of my made up rule.
That's cute. All right. So what was that? We're on number 4 now. Number 4 is, so what is 3 stars to you? So 3-star rating. So 3-star rating is really, I don't think it's average. 3-star rating does not mean average to me. It doesn't mean mid. It means good, actually. I think 3 stars means good to me. 3 stars means it's a good novel, good job. That's what it means for me. And I think in terms of average, if you're going to talk about average, I think that a lot of the books that I've read, because if you go to Goodreads and you see like my average reviews, right now my average review rate is hovering right around 3 stars, which, you know, that might just be coincidence, but again, it makes sense because I feel like if we're to be honest, right? You want to be honest. People always saying, leave honest review, honest review. The honest review for me, honestly, I think 3 stars is good. And I think that the vast majority of work that gets published, if we're to be honest, falls into that 3-star area. Like, it means it's good enough to be published. Now, that might sound like it's saying it's mid, it's average, but no, you got to think about the amount of work that goes into publishing a novel. So I would like to think that the vast majority of work that actually is getting published, authors aren't taking the time to publish something that's mid. They're not taking, at least I would hope so. The vast majority of authors, I'll say publishers out there, the real deal publishers out there, whether they're trad or indie, they're not spending time, energy, and effort to publish something that they think is mid. Okay. Everything that they put out onto the market, they want it to be considered good work. They're not publishing mid. They're not publishing average. But if the vast majority of stuff just so happens to be good, well, then that means the vast majority of stuff that gets published is going to fall into that 3-star range. Now, does that mean that that particular book is your personal taste? Probably not. You know, probably not. But within its specific genre, it's good, you know, or good enough. It's definitely good enough to be a representative of that genre. So for me, 3-star really just means it was good. I enjoyed the story. You know, it was good enough to be published, and good job. Really is what it boils down to.
Five is, what does a 4 stars mean to you? And I just answered that. Oopsie. Number 6.
All right, so I guess she did double there. So the 4-star. So now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. This is where it gets a little bit tricky because now, okay, so if 3 stars means good, so what's the difference? Most people will say, okay, so 5-star. 5-star can be a contentious rating too. We could have a little discussion about what 5 stars actually means. But 4 stars is a little bit tricky because they're like, well, you know, it's just easy to say, well, it's just the in between. 4 stars just means it's something, it fell in between 3 stars and 5 stars. Okay. But we're not just splitting hairs here. That's the thing. For me, it's not just splitting hairs. It's not that simple. 4 stars for me means that it's an exceptional piece of work. That's how you distinguish the difference between a good piece of work and a 3-star piece of work and a 4-star piece of work. A 3-star piece of work is good enough to publish. It's good work, good job. 4-star piece of work is something that is exceptional. It's uncommon is another way of looking at it, because we're talking about, when I think of ratings, it's almost like you're giving It's not just the quality, but that is what is implied in the rating, is the quality of the work. But really what you're doing as the critic is you're rating your specific individual experience with the work. So it's not like it's a reflection of the quality of the work, but it's a reflection of the quality of the work from your personal perspective, from your individual perception of what quality is as an individual critic. So for me, when you say 3 stars, okay, that's good work, good job. It was good enough to get published. I may read that book, I will enjoy my time with that book, and then I'm going to move on. 2, 3, 4 months down the road, I might not remember that book. I may remember little bits and pieces from that book, but I might not remember the entire story, which is why I like to write reviews and stuff so I can look back and reflect. 4-star, however, is something that is exceptional, maybe exceptional within that particular genre. So people who read a lot of genre fiction will understand this. So like, say, if you read a lot of sci-fi, or if you read a lot of fantasy, because fantasy is another big one too, you're going to notice a lot of the same tropes. You're going to notice a lot of the same types of cliches and plot devices and things of that nature. If you hyper focused on reading a lot of genre fiction, especially if you read a lot of niche genre fiction, okay? So that's why the 4-star rating is important, because if you're reading a lot of genre fiction and you're going to be able to become more of a specialized expert in that genre, if you will. So say if you specialize in sci-fi, you read a lot of sci-fi, you're going to know a lot about what is in a sci-fi novel. Not only what distinguishes it from different genres, but the types of things, like I listed off before, that are involved in that genre. The tropes, the cliches, the plot devices, what have you. So you're going to read books in there and you're going to be able to tell maybe within the first third of the book, the second third, or maybe in the last, after you're finished the book, yep, this is a 3-star book. It's good enough to publish. It's good enough to be representative of the genre. And that's about it. It's nothing too special, but it's good enough. And I enjoyed the book. It's good. It tickled my fancy, if you will, because I like to read a lot of that particular genre. Now, this is why the 4-star rating is important, because when you come across that book that may do something tricky, different, it's an anomaly in the sense that it tries to do something that is considered uncommon with a particular trope or a cliche or a plot device. There's something extra about it, a little bit creative, perhaps, a little extra imagination involved. That's why the 4-star is important, because the 4-star means it is exceptional work. It is an exception. It is an exception to the rule, if you will, where 3 stars is the rule. It's a good sci-fi book that follows all the sci-fi rules. 4-star would be an uncommon sci-fi book that kind of maybe either not necessarily subverts, maybe it could transcend, but that's kind of getting more into the 5-star area. But, it's uncommon. It stands out as an anomaly in its own right. That's how the best way, the most comprehensive, almost semi-deep dive way, if you will, that I can explain what a 4-star rating means. So it's not just this, in other words, it's not just this arbitrary middle point between 3 stars and 5 stars. So what does it mean from a reader perspective? So you say, okay, it's uncommon. 4 stars means it's exceptional, it's uncommon, and it's worth, for me, that is a book that is worth recommending. To who? Maybe to other sci-fi people. In other words, if you have a buddy who reads a lot of sci-fi, are you going to recommend him? You might recommend him a good read. But if he reads a lot of sci-fi, odds are, it's probably not really going to be that big of a deal. You know, why are you gonna take the time to just you know, go to your buddy and recommend something that's like, it was good enough, you know? Or are you gonna say, wow, like I know my buddy reads a lot of sci-fi like I do, and he's already aware because we've had the conversations of all these different tropes and plot devices and whatnot. But this one is exceptional. It's uncommon. This has something weird about it, you know, that kind of sets it apart from the pack, if you will. And that is where you start to get into, that is something that is worth recommending, I think. Very long-winded, but I did not go into this much detail in my presentation when it came to the ratings. So I enjoy this. I enjoy this discussion.
Do you ever do half-star ratings? And yes, sometimes it's usually when I'm bumping down or bumping up, and that is basically it. But I don't really write that out in reviews. I don't really do written out reviews on Goodreads anyway, unless there's a video to it, then I will add it. It's 4.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't bump it up to 5. Here's why in the video.
Yeah, Goodreads doesn't do half stars.
Number 7, do you rate?
Yeah, so that's it. This is just a short one. Do I do half star ratings? You can't do half star. The short sweet to that is no, I don't do half star ratings because you can't do half star ratings. The only place I do star ratings is on Goodreads. So I do a 10-point scale on my editorials. I use a 10-point scale on my editorials. And yeah, it will get like, if I get like books, I've had some that have rated like a 4.5 or something like that. And it does mean something. It's not just arbitrary. So it'll be like a 0.5. I'll do 0.5. I don't do like 0.75 or 0.33 or any kind of weird ratios like that. I just do the 0.5 or something like that. Yeah, that's about it.
Books 5 stars often. What do 5-star books do to make you rate high? I think I already answered that as well. Oops. But I rate 5 stars fairly often. Here's my thing. I start off 5 stars, so I'm very optimistic. And then if it isn't doing well, then I knock off stars. So I know some people start like going in as like 1 star, or some go in with 3 stars, but I am very optimistic, and usually that's not the case. Usually
so you start at 5, work your way back.
But in the case of reading, I go in
that's different,
thinking
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
And then we're going to just like keep it at amazing. But if it doesn't, then it goes down and down and down until, you know, whatever rating it is. Number 8.
All right, so that was number 7. What is a 5-star review? Okay, so we've already went extensively into 4, so I'll keep it pretty short with 5. So 5, the 5-star review is actually pretty easy from my perspective, and then it just continues on from the 4-star. So the 4-star review is really the definer. So something can be exceptional. If a piece of work is exceptional, meaning it's uncommon, it deals with things in an uncommon kind of way, stands out, it's on the road to being a 5-star. If things are taken, you know, depending on that last portion of it is the type of effect that it has upon me as the reader. So this has to do with the execution specifically. So if a book is doing some weird shit, if a story or the narrative has some weird shit in there, whether it's subverting my expectations or it's transcending certain themes or ideas that are classically attributed to a particular genre, but in a creative and imaginative way, which constitutes value in my eyes. And and it continues on that and it does it well, well, at that point, it's justified to be 5 stars. Now, 5 stars for me does not mean that it is a perfectly written story. That is a common misconception of what 5 stars means, in my opinion. I don't think that's what 5 stars means. 5 stars doesn't mean that it is a perfectly written story. However, it does mean that the story itself is extraordinary. In other words, so where 4 stars, I said, is exceptional, 5 stars means extraordinary. So it took what was exceptional, what was uncommon, and it took it to such a level that it made it rare. In other words, wow, it's fucking rare to see something like that in a story. So where it was something that was uncommon, oh, you don't see that every day. Now it's rare, as in, wow, I don't think I've ever seen that. And if I have, I don't fucking remember the last time I saw something like that in a story. See, that's really what 5 stars boils down for me. So the difference between a 4 star and a 5 star is a 4 star is an uncommon book that is worth recommending, whereas a 5 star book is an extraordinary piece of work that is highly recommended. That's how I look at it.
Has your rating of books changed over the years? And yes, I'm sure, but I don't think I ever articulated what it was. So I'm sure, but I can't recall what the rating system was, especially when I was a teenager or whatever. I was just reading to escape and to have fun and to not try and be depressed. So that was very, very emotional reading, not much logic behind it. And then when I was
Emotional
in
reading.
college, I'm rating
It's the cousin
books
to
to see
mood
if
reading.
I actually enjoyed being assigned books and made to read them, which kind of killed my love for reading for like 6 months to a year after I graduated college. But I'm back. It's fine. And there's a dog barking, and I hope he's okay. Number 9, where do you...
All right, so number 8 is, has your rating system kind of changed? And I will say that yes, it has. When I started incorporating indie works into the mix. Now you may be thinking to yourself, oh, you take it easy on indies. I don't. I actually, believe it or not, I actually do not. I have a separate rating system for the indie books that I'm reading. Yes, I rate the indie books on a 10-point scale, but I also give them a star rating as well. So, but in terms of my process of evaluating these works, it's no different than I would evaluate a piece of trad pub. Literally no different. So I don't believe that just because something is independently published that you should be, as a critic, you should be taking it easy on them. Like, no, no. Homie, don't play that. We don't play that game. There's no taking it easy, being a softie or anything like that. No, if you need to get serious. If you're out here and you're an author, you call yourself an author. And I'm not claiming that you aren't if you're indie or self-pubbed. I'm not claiming that at all. Quite the contrary. In fact, I will defend the notion of that you are, in fact, a published author, even if you are self-pubbed or independent or published under an independent label. You are still considered technically a published author. Just because you're not published by one of the big 5 in the trad pub doesn't mean you aren't published. However, you got to take the good with the bad, okay? If you are putting something out on the market and you are asking people to open up their wallets and spend their hard-earned money on your product, then you must be prepared mentally to deal with the criticism. Because if you're not, if you're going to be a baby about it, you're going to cry, wah, wah, shit in your diaper, Every time you get something less than a 5-star review, hey, maybe publishing ain't for you. I'll just put that out there right now. But yes, the 10-point scale is something new that I started doing. That is since I've started reading indie books. I don't do the 10-point scale for the trad pub. I just give them a rating on Goodreads whenever I read one, because I will say, let me just add, I also don't do written reviews for the classics and stuff like that. That's just books that I've had on my bucket list that I've been wanting to read. So whenever I read one of the classics or something like that, I just end up giving it a star rating and calling it good. I don't sit there and evaluate the whole book, because the way that I look at it, everybody and their grandmother has already written a review or have something on that book somewhere. So it ain't going to do, it's not going to be a good, we want to talk about spending your time. It's not a good use of my time to be evaluating fiction that literally everybody and their grandmother has already read and shared their opinions about. Okay. Now, if someone ever wanted to have a discussion with me on any of the classics that I have read, I might be inclined to do something like that, because that means somebody has actually showed interest in my opinion, my personal opinion of that book. Now, that's why it's more valuable. I think it's more valuable for me to spend my time reviewing indie books, independent literature that's very obscure and hardly anyone knows about, because there aren't a lot of people out there that have reviews on those particular books, hence making my reviews more valuable and making it a more valuable use of my time, energy, and effort to do so. That's the way I look at it.
Record your ratings of the books you've read, and simple answer working, and I hope he's okay. Number 9, where do you record your ratings of the books you've read? And simple answer is Goodreads. That's where I go. That's where I hang out. I'm on there every single day. So if you want to find me, I have a link to my Goodreads profile, and you can add me and we can be friends and we can have a fun time with books. And now the last question, it's not a question, but who are you going to...
And she's getting into her tags now. Thanks for that, Nicole. Appreciate it. Always fun. So the last one is where do you put your reviews? So yeah, I'm the same. I got Goodreads. I do Goodreads, and then I got my own blog where I publish editorials. Now, there's a couple different ways that you could interact with my editorials, actually. And also a little tip for you guys. If you're going to start your own blog, you can put hyperlinks in. You can embed hyperlinks in your Goodreads reviews. So a little FYI, do a little cross promotion, okay? Because I run a blog, and then I publish my full-length editorials, which are usually over 1,000 words per editorial on each book that I read from the independent market. I publish that on my blog, and there's a couple ways that you can come across those. One is I always do like this fun thing that I call mystery packs, and I add a new mystery pack to my shorts tab or my playlist tab on my YouTube channel, and then I put the link to the editorial of that book in the description section. So that's a fun way to kind of discover them. But if you want to know just a straight up, like a list of all the authors and the books that I've done editorials for, you can go to livefreeliverich.com, hit at the top of the page, click the network tab, and then right in the network page, you'll see a little spot there where it says indie authors. So you can click on that, and then right on that page, you'll see a list of each and every single author and their book and specific book of theirs that I've written an editorial on, and you can check those out for yourself. Now the Goodreads, like I say, the Goodreads, what I do is I kind of do like an abridged version of my editorial. I do an abridged version for the review, and I try to keep it as spoiler free as possible. And I just kind of give a short, sweet, abridged version of that editorial. But then underneath that, what I'll do is you can check out the full breakdown of that book, and I leave a link to my website, so I could try to draw some traffic from Goodreads to go check out my blog. So that's a little tip for you guys. If you run a blog on the side, you can kind of do a little cross promotion that way. So that was fun. Thanks for that, Nicole. Again, let's check out tag. Who am I going to tag here? I'm going to tag just 3 people. I'm going to tag 3 people that I've never tagged before. I like to reach out to different folks in the Booktube community. I did see that, D.A. Bell. You're not following anyone on any Booktube channels. There's some good ones out there. You know, a lot of them, I will say a lot of them, there are a lot of channels that kind of follow the same formula, if you will. They do a lot of book haul videos. Some of them don't even do book reviews, believe it or not. They do Booktube channels, but all their videos kind of revolve around book hauls, just showing off, hey, this is what I bought. They're book collectors. Some of them are more considered book collectors than they are book readers. But yeah, some of them are fun. There's some good personalities out there. There's some fun people out there. I would suggest checking it out. You can go on YouTube, just put in the search Booktube. And you can and use the filters too, because sometimes all they'll do is just fill your fucking screen up with a bunch of stupid short videos. You want to see the good stuff, then put in filter out the videos for at least videos over 4 minutes. That way you can avoid all those stupid short videos. Anyways, I got 3 booktubers here ready to rock and roll. And I'm going to tag Bald Book Geek. I've been subbed to his channel for a while. See if I can pry him away from his precious Rings of Power videos. Bald Book Geek. Margaret Pennard. She's a new one that I kind of discovered recently. And Ian Gubelli. You 3, consider yourselves tagged. You want to give this a shot, have some fun. Let us know. How do you rate your books? This is the How Do We Rate Our Books tag, which is created by Emily over at Novell Novels channel. You guys have some media to share. You can share some media with me. It doesn't have to be a tag video. I like video essays. I like discussion videos, like where you're going into, it could be writing tips and tricks type videos. It could be you reading your poetry for the camera. And it could be you reading a short story, anything like that. When in doubt, don't think, share the link, and then leave it to me to figure out. All right. Time for the last segment here. Appreciate those of you who have taken the time to stop by, say hi. If you're watching the stream right now, no need to be shy. I just like to know who took the time to stop by. So if you're watching, you're lurking, yeah, drop me something in the comment. Drop a comment. Let me know who you are. What are you up to? Okay, here's the last segment, the staple of the Monday Night Live, which is Hot Topic for Content Creators. Hot Topic for Content Creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around and create your own video on said topic. Or else, you're always welcome to drop some comments down below, share your thoughts down below, or on any of my previously pitched hot topic videos. You can come at this from a variety of angles as we continue to embroider these topics together. So tonight, just want to give a quick shout out first and foremost that tonight's topic comes from a video that I saw on another content creator's channel, Patrick Leo. Shout out to Patrick Leo for being the inspiration for tonight's hot topic subject. And tonight's hot topic, we're revisiting indie author folly. Indie author folly is where I want you guys to share the business practices, the public relations, or the marketing strategies that you observed within the indie scene that have made you cringe. Now, it's not necessarily anything that would be considered illegal, but just stuff that seems questionable, off. It seems a little grifty, if you will, dare I say. However, I want the focus to be on the behavior itself. I do not want this to be an open forum for talking shit about specific authors or other indie publishers out there or anything like that. I just want to focus on the behavior itself for this hot topic. So kind of use it as like a learning opportunity, if you will. So here's the little subject that I have for you tonight. So like I said, this was inspired by a video that I saw on Patrick's channel. And I want to kind of go into it a little bit more in depth. So there's something that a particular publisher is doing that I want to shed light on without pointing the finger at that particular publisher. But if you guys must know, then you can head on over to Patrick's channel, and I'm sure you could find the video of who I'm referring to here. But let's just say there is a publisher out there, pretty well known, but they are indie, nevertheless, but they have published some pretty well-known and popular authors, to say the least. But technically, they are an indie label. And there's a marketing strategy that's going on right now that I think needs to have some light shed upon. And I also would like to ponder some other ideas and bounce it off you guys and kind of see if I can get some of you stimulated enough to share your opinions on this and what you think. You know, if you have a problem with it, you don't have a problem with it, why or why not? You know, I want to know. So here's what it is. So this particular publisher, what they're doing, the author that they're publishing is coming out with a new book soon, okay? And this is their marketing strategy for that book. And and hopefully this, in my opinion, does not become a new common business practice, because I think that this is definitely a ripoff to fans. And I'll explain why, and it may become obvious as I go along here. So what they're doing is they're not releasing, once this book is released, they're not releasing multiple editions as much as what they're doing is they're releasing kind of alternate, what is glorified, an alternate version of. So I'm going to make some comparisons here too. So what am I talking about specifically? So this is what their business plan is, their marketing strategy. What they're doing is they're releasing this title, this one title, and it's going to be released to multiple retailers, right? But what they're doing is they're making certain content within this book exclusive depending on which retailer, big box retailer, you purchase the book from. So in other words, if you purchase the book from Walmart, then the book is going to contain extra content. Okay, so it's important to note that it's not the core content. So the core story of the novel remains the same across all these versions, which is why I say they're not necessarily editions. These aren't different editions. They're all going to have the same cover, as far as I know. They're pretty much all marketed the same way as the same book. However, they're going to be the Walmart exclusive, the Target exclusive type of version of the same book. So the core content stays the same. I believe the cover art may remain unchanged, aside from maybe it might have a stupid fucking sticker on it that says Walmart exclusive, Target exclusive, God forbid, because we all know how readers feel about stupid stickers put on the books, me included. So these are like alternate versions. So what are we talking about here? So the author is writing these bonus chapters. Okay, bonus chapters for what I assume are side characters. Okay, so these are books that if you, depending on which retailer you purchase it from, you're going to get a bonus chapter on one of several particular side characters. Now, to me, this is about as grifty as it comes. Okay, especially if you're going to be charging, upwards like over $20, $25 for a hardcover or something like that. And now you got 3 different versions of, but it's the same book cover. It's the same content. It's just got a little, you know what I mean? It's just got a little extra on the end, a little different little cherry on top. That's really, I find that grifty. The reason why I wanted to bring this up too is because, like, where does this end? Because I'm thinking about digital. This is for the physical copies of the book. Okay. So the core content remains the same. You got these different versions of that just so happen to include a bonus chapter. So then what comes next? Are we going to start having DLC, downloadable content for ebooks? Oh, guys, you thought you purchased the entire novel? No. There's an additional, here's an extension pack. Here's an extension pack for that novel that you purchased. Okay. No, this isn't a separate story. No, this isn't a completely separate novel that the author's been working on. No, this is just a short little, fragmented extension pack for a novel that's already been released, and you can pay a new price and you can download that. So instead of the author going out of their way to write a completely new novel, they're just going to start writing these. They'll write like one core piece of work, full length novel, and then they'll start releasing maybe fragments, bonus chapters, which at that point would really just be a glorified serial, I would think, except is it really a serial? Because at least with serialized fiction, people know what they're getting themselves into. People start reading serialized fiction, understanding that they're, sure, there may be a set amount of episodes. Maybe there might be a season that the serialized fiction is live, or it may just be ongoing. It depends on the writer. The writer just may keep going and going and going and going. And there may not necessarily be any end in sight for that particular series, that serialized fiction. But at least the reader knows that going in, Whereas this, it's like, where does it end? You're going to let them just start creating these alternate versions. And then that also kind of like dovetails, another angle you can come at this from is it also kind of dovetails on the whole not necessarily the representation in fiction thing, but it's just like it's almost like you could do post revisions, after the fact. Okay, you have characters, you've released a novel, and then is that canon? The novel itself is canon, but then you could have the author 6 months down the road, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, revisit one of those previously published novels and then suddenly decide to themselves, I feel like writing some extra chapters for all these various different characters, side characters or what have you. And we'll just go ahead and release that as a downloadable pack, for ebooks or whatever. Now, what do you guys think about that? Are you cool with it? You wouldn't have a problem with it? I feel like it almost, from a artistic standpoint, it kind of fucks with the canon a little bit. That's the only angle that I could come at it from and say, yeah, well, for one, it's a cash grab. On the business end, it seems like a cash grab, an obvious cash grab. Just basically just siphoning off of the fandom. But is it justified, though? That's another way of looking at it. Is it justified? Because if the fans are thirsty, if they're thirsty fans and they don't give a shit and they're just like, take my money, give me every little scrap of lore that you possibly can, and I really don't care how you release it, even if it comes across as a straight up grift, I don't care. Just give me every little scrap of morsel. I'll pay $90. I'll pay $97 for a 25-page floppy. Maybe that's them. Maybe you are one of those people. Money's not an object. You don't care. That has nothing to do with the value. For me, it's like, okay, well, when does it, artistically speaking, it kind of fucks with canon in a way. I could see how it could, because say you are a critic, you are one of the early supporters of whatever novel comes out. You review that novel in depth. You took the time, energy, effort, and you reviewed that novel in depth. Okay. Maybe you're one of these people that are out here on Booktube and you release 1+ hour fucking deep dive criticisms on a book, deep dive reviews, analytical reviews, maybe 2 hour plus. Maybe you're like that rogue guy that does the obsessive compulsive 7+ hour deep dives. Okay. Is that you? Imagine putting in all that fucking work into a novel, right? And then the author comes in behind you after all that's said and done, and then decides to tack on an extra 3, 4, 5, 10 chapters of bonus content that fucks with the entire framing of the story itself. Kind of undermines the original canon, what was originally canon in the work. I mean, at that point, you're like, okay, do I even try with this author anymore? Which makes me believe that if the publishing company is going to release a book that has like these bonus chapters in it, I'm going to think that from a business standpoint, these bonus chapters are nothing special. In other words, it's not anything that's going to ruin the reading experience for the core fandom, who are going to just be folk who are really just buying this book, this novel for the core story itself. Yeah, sure, there's a little add-on at the end, a little bit of bonus for a inconsequential side character, or maybe we get a little resolution for a side character that doesn't necessarily fit into the main story itself. It couldn't have been written into the main story itself without it coming off as wonky or a bit jarring, what have you. I mean, whatever. I still think that what you're doing at this point as a publishing company is with all this exclusive shit. What I don't like is like, okay, you go to Walmart, you're going to get one version. You go to Target, you're going to get a different version. That's cash grab bullshit right there. I think that's cash grab. Because really what's going to happen, like we're going to go away. Like if we continue into this digital age, like what's the point? You're going to have the Amazon digital exclusive that only reads on the Kindle. And then you're going to have like the EPUB everybody else version that works on other e-readers, you know? So that makes it so I feel like that's one angle you could look at it where it's like you could, because you know damn well how Amazon is. Amazon will be all about that exclusive shit. So you may have to buy a Kindle. In other words, it's going to put you in a position where you may have to buy a Kindle because for one, there's no physical paperback version of the book available that would have that bonus content. And it would only be available through Amazon Kindle specifically. So you would at that point, it's like you either buy Amazon Kindle or else you're not getting that bonus. You're not getting access to that bonus content, you know, barring nobody online just puts it up there for free. You know what I mean? But I mean, to get it legitimately, you would have to own a Kindle and buy it specifically through Amazon. So that's why I see down the road, I could see potentially happening here. If this is what these publishers are going to start messing around with, these little marketing strategies and shit, maybe there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that I don't know about, where they're having these little backroom negotiations with these big box retailers. These big box retailers maybe making some special deals with them. They say, hey, if you're going to do something that's going to send some business our way, then we may be willing to give you a little bit more upfront for your product or what have you. I don't know. I'm not a fly on the wall in the room during those deals, but it's a possibility is all I'm saying. So I'll be happy to hear what you guys have to say. Weigh in on this. What do you think? What do you think about DLC content for ebooks? You think people should just go serialized if they're planning on doing something like that? What do you think about specific retailer exclusives? You want to have Amazon strong-arming publishers and saying, hey, if you're going to have an Amazon only version and then you can't publish anywhere else unless it's a completely different version of the novel. It's got to be, in other words, there's got to be something transformative about it. We're going to get to that point where these distributors are going to start strong-arming the publishers, whether you're indie pub or self-pubbed. Weigh in. Let me know. Is that within their rights to do that? Let's find out together, shall we? All right. It's time for me to wrap this up. Before I do, I'm going to put some theme music on for you. How about this one is tonight's theme music is let's see. You and your posse are bounty hunters trailing the most wanted outlaws in the West. That's right. You and your posse. You guys are some bounty hunters trailing the most wanted outlaws in the West. So check some comments now. Now, if you guys leave some comments throughout the week, if you're catching this on the replay, you can go ahead and drop some comments down below. Don't be shy. Just say hello if you want, because I will address your comments live on the air during a future broadcast. Always reserve a little spot during the show for those of you who take the time to stop by. A small enough channel, I can definitely get to all of you guys. All right, address you all one by one. So, stop by, say hi, weigh in. Let's have some fun. Let's make it fun. Say whatever you got to say. You read any of the books that I've talked about today? Have you? The authors may watch the show. They might want to know. You might make their day as far as that goes. All right, so this is someone new to the channel here. This is from last week's stream. Therefore, I am July 24, 23. This comes from a user by the handle Frederick No 3114. Says, found you from Twitter. Well, that's cool. At least I know people are actually seeing my fucking tweets. That's nice to know. Found you from Twitter. I don't know anything about the actual video aside from it's a book review show hosted by a 2000s shooter protagonist. I have to say that is probably the most Reddit / 4chan description if I've ever heard one. But just like much of what you would see on those message boards, the information you got is inaccurate, I will say. This is not a book review show. However, I will say probably a more accurate description, if I had to sum it up, is this is basically just a variety show. Really, it's a variety show where I am raising awareness for a variety of projects from all around the underground scene with a focus on independent publishing specifically. Frederick left another comment. He says, really like the art. And that was left on my recent special presentation video where I was taking a look at book reviews and sharing how I evaluate fiction. Thanks for the kind words, man. I would be interested to know what was it about the art that you liked specifically. You want to get back to me on that one. If you could sum it up in one word, maybe. You know, you don't have to get too in depth with it. What was it about that art that you liked? Inquiring minds want to know. As for the rest of you, that's it for the show. I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week. Oh, hell yeah! That's my guy! Yeehaw! We gotta support us, buy his product. Buy.
This offended my sensibilities.